Welcome back to the Scare Stiff Podcast. This is your host, Mike, and my co-host, Scott. How are you doing today, my friend?
Feel pretty gross.
Yeah.
Feel
you're
gross.
You're still getting over your sickness.
Oh yeah, I mean, I also haven't shaved. I'm wearing shitty clothes. Getting ready to work out, so I just don't feel very good right now.
Well, it's a good thing that the camera is not as high quality as it could be.
Yep, sure. That's gonna make me feel much better.
Okay.
So, how are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, but I'm glad that we didn't stay as late as we did at work.
7.5, close to 7.5 hours.
Pretty good work day.
Yep. I mean, it's been a good week. We've been very busy.
Very.
This has been a very hectic October, to say the least.
Oh, 100%. It's been lots and lots and lots of running around and going to see movies in theaters.
Them not be possible.
Yeah.
A lot of going to see movies that we can't even see, so we don't end up seeing them.
True.
A lot of films that they have special screenings on, and we're sick, or we don't have time for it. And then occasionally there's special screenings where we can see them. Luckily.
You say occasionally as if it wasn't just one of them.
Yeah, I know.
Because the beginning of the month with Dracula and Frankenstein, that didn't go very well. The visuals were green instead of black and white, so we got a refund for that one. That was very disappointing. But we both couldn't see Evil Dead. I was feeling like shit. You had a prior engagement.
Yep.
We did manage to see Scream, so that's pretty cool.
Easily the least excited I would be out of the three. So.
Yeah.
Really feels like God was shitting on me on that one.
I was definitely more looking forward to seeing Evil Dead in the theater, but I couldn't make that work. I was too fucking sick.
Really liked to see those two classics in theaters.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Dracula and Frankenstein.
But
oh well.
They'll be in theaters again, I'm sure. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, maybe it'll be next year or whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure I could probably end up seeing them in Salem or something.
Actually, you know what? 1931, 2021.
I know, it's 80 years, that's why they did it.
Yeah, so it won't be in theaters next year, at least not nationwide.
Yeah, I just meant mostly like I could probably see them in Salem or something.
Yeah, they usually throw those kinds of movies in there.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll work out for me.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
But speaking of special films, this is the final film we're doing for our Halloween marathon going through the decades. And this is, I would say, not your favorite, but at least your top 3 favorite horror films, right?
Yes, it is my 3rd favorite horror movie of all time.
Okay. I win.
Yep, just behind Nightmare on Elm Street is number 1. Number 2 is Suspiria.
Okay.
So, very close. It's actually climbed up. It was actually a couple spaces lower before. But as past couple years have gone on, I've watched it more than I would say any movie. I would just come back to it. So this is a comfort movie for me.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
The movie's Halloween. If you watched our Scream review, you knew that already, but...
So, we're doing it covering the 80s. Clearly, Halloween came out in 78. You know?
Yeah, it's close enough.
Do you want to give it... Because I'm going to have my piece as to why I consider it the 80s. Why I consider covering it for the 80s. I mean,
it's for kind of 2 reasons, really. And I mean, we've discussed this off camera before, so I feel like we're both going to kind of agree on this. A, it's 78, it's close enough. But also, a big part of the horror movement in the 80s was a lot of slasher movies. And those movies don't exist the same way as they do, I'd say, without Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween structures slasher films in a very different way than prior films like Texas Chainsaw and Black Christmas did.
Yeah, I would say, like, obviously those and Psycho are the proto-slashers. They're called proto-slashers for a reason. I would say that when you get down to brass tacks, the actual formula of slashers was set here.
Yeah, I mean, you could make more of a case for Black Christmas than you could for Texas Chainsaw, I'd say.
Texas Chainsaw, it's really weird because it's a slasher movie technically, but it is unlike most anything in the subgenre.
I mean, if you get rid of the last kill, they're not hunting anybody. They just happen to fall into the wrong area. Like, they just happen to be like, hey, fuck are you doing here? I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Like,
yeah, it's wrong place at wrong time.
Yeah. Whereas Halloween, he's hunting them.
Yeah, once a specific thing happens, he's actually like fixated on them and tracking them through the town and all that stuff. Whereas in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if they never rolled up on that house by accident, this would never have happened.
Yeah.
So.
Even like with them being in the area close to the house, they don't give a shit. But with Michael Myers, like, he's going into people's cars, he's breaking into their house, he's following them, doing things. You know, they never leave their house, really.
Yeah.
So, Black Christmas is a lot more of a case, but I feel like with Halloween, it solidified what to expect and how to go about the formula for slasher films.
I would also say that one of the big chief differences between this and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or even Black Christmas, would be, rather than, this Halloween has this more of like a malevolent idea of something like the boogeyman, which is something obviously they say a lot in the movie. This malevolent force, this, manifestation of fate, which is another big important part about this movie. Whereas, looking at like Black Christmas, or more specifically Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like this is like a real life, like these are just people who are absolutely out of their minds, who are killing people and eating them. It's not like it feels a lot more spooky and supernatural in Halloween, even if that is not the intention.
Yeah, it's a lot more elevated than like what you consider as reality.
Yeah, it feels a lot more like it's like a specter is chasing you, rather than real people. What
really picked up on with characters like Jason Voorhees as time goes on, Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously.
That's another thing. Like, you love. I mean, obviously, I love it too, but you really love the Friday the 13th films.
Yeah, if we didn't cover them, I would argue the best example of the 1980s for slasher films or for horror would probably be
a Friday movie.
The original Friday is the one.
I agree.
I think we covered all of them. We wouldn't do it again, but Friday is the one where it's like, we can do it cheap, we can do it easy, we don't have to give two fucks. And the 80s were like, I like those three things a lot.
Yeah, the Friday the 13th movies were easily some of, if not the most profitable slashers of the 80s. It's between them and some of the sequels for Nightmare did really good money.
The reason I would argue Friday is because Friday is a staple of the 80s, because those Paramount 8 come out through the entire span of the 80s.
No, I agree.
With Nightmare, it comes out 85, and a good length of films are still in the 80s, but they went on afterwards. Whereas Friday, it's like as soon as it left the 80s. As soon as it left the 80s, Friday's like kind of dying out now.
Yeah, there's only two of them after that, and actually, it's really kind of similar, because there was only Freddy's Dead, which is 1990, and then New Nightmare, which is 94, and for Friday the 13th, it was Jason Goes to Hell in 93, and then 2002 or something for Jason X.
And they both had two Jason. They both had remakes.
Yeah, they both had two post the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I would argue definitely if we had not covered the Friday the 13th movies, we would definitely be picking at least one of them for this.
But I still think Halloween's, it's the grandfather of them all. It made it possible.
Yeah, we wouldn't have Friday the 13th without Halloween.
Yeah, you could listen.
At least not as we know it.
Cunningham has said that a million times. Like, this Halloween movie made money.
Let's rip it off. Literally verbatim.
Yes.
Let's rip this movie off. So, hey, that doesn't negate the achievements of the Friday the 13th franchise at all.
Yeah, because I'll say it negates some achievements in the first movie.
Well, there's a lot of things that negate some achievements in the first movie. But
I think I've been going back and thinking about the first film, and I like the ideas of a lot of things a lot more. It's just the execution is a little sloppy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the first one I'm like, that's a good idea, but I don't think that the quality of craftsmanship was there yet, especially in writing. But anyways, the reason why this teed up the idea of the slashers in the 80s, which was a huge boom for horror. The 80s is a very diverse decade for horror. We've talked about this a billion times.
I would say, and you would probably say, possibly the most diverse period for horror.
I would probably say so. And slashers are just one part of that, but it's a rather large part of it.
Absolutely.
So I think that Halloween definitely teed up what we think of for the 80s, so it might as well just count it as that. And plus, it's the end of the month.
Yes. It really is, because it is the end of Halloween. We wanted to put the film in there. You've wanted to cover it, something we want to talk about. I will say,
I talk about it almost every fucking episode, so
there's not going to be a whole lot of new information coming out of this. It's more of us just going to be glorifying, like, talking about the achievements Halloween's done, the things it's made, versus like the actual film. Which is it speaks lengths about this film because of all the things it's done, it's achieved, and it's made, without having to mention much about even the film itself.
Yeah, and I mean it's still relevant today. We just got another Halloween sequel. It just came out in theaters.
Yeah, and if these films keep bringing people to the box office, we're going to get a revitalization of slashers. And what the remake era tried to do, Halloween might end up actually doing.
Yeah, I'm here for it, man. I'm here for more slashers.
Ironically, the remake era tried to do again with Halloween, but
yeah, and failed both times.
Yeah, we don't have fucking Rob Zombie do it.
Yeah, but I definitely think, I don't think we could have talked about at this juncture in the podcast, especially after Friday month. There's nothing else we could have talked about.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like we were talking about just skipping the 80s because we've covered it so much, but we were going to talk about Halloween anyways. It's like, it really is the perfect way to delve into how this creates the 80s. So.
Yeah, it's close enough too.
Yeah.
78, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, like there's really nothing to be said about this movie that hasn't already been said. You're not going to come to this podcast to hear some new development or new perspective on the franchise or on this movie specifically. It is a movie that has been talked about and analyzed and completely shredded apart and put back together for decades, for over 40 years. It's not going to change. There's nothing new to find, but I just love it.
It's funny. I mean, it's pretty divisive, I'd say, as far as a series goes for Halloween.
Yeah.
Because, you kind of have to pick and choose stuff with the Nightmare sequels, being like, this doesn't happen and this happens or whatever. You just don't care and you consider certain things to work. A lot of people almost discredit all of them except for the original and 3, which
pretty much.
I don't agree with, but
because you can't really even consider New Nightmare because it's completely separate.
People will usually for like Friday consider just the Paramount 8 and just say everything after that different timeline or doesn't count, or they even pick and choose some stuff in 8 because things don't line up for the Paramount 8. Sorry, but with Halloween, there's a lot to go through. You almost 3 timelines distinctly now.
Yes, because there's the Halloween through,
and this is not counting remakes. 3 from the original film.
Also not counting 3.
Yes,
because
3 isn't. It can't be in continuity.
Yeah, it's not a Myers movie. So Halloween through 6.
Yep.
There's Halloween 1, 2, H2O, and Resurrection.
And then there's Halloween 1, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills.
And Kills, and then ends.
Halloween ends, yes.
Next year. If you want to count remakes, they have their own separate timeline. If you want to count 3, it has its own separate timeline technically. But there's mainly just 3.
The funniest thing about the movies for Halloween, if Ends does not stick the landing, every single time the timeline ends, it's on a fucking shitty movie.
Yeah.
That's so disappointing. It's never ended well.
Sorry, Curse fans. Sorry. Well, there's no Resurrections fans. There's no Resurrections.
Yeah, there's
fans.
no
Let's be real.
Resurrections fans.
There are. I've talked to them, but I'm not acknowledging their existence.
I don't believe him. He's lying on the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Okay. There are Rob Zombie fans. I know several people who love the Rob Zombie movies. Good for them. Not for me.
It has to be an aesthetic thing. Like,
maybe it's just they like a different perspective on the franchise.
Yeah.
But
that has to be the worst thing about these new films to me. That has to be the worst thing where people are like going back being like, we had it good with the Rob Zombie films. I'm like, you had it fucking what now? You had it good? Like, yeah. I'm all for like taking things and deviating from the material. Like, it's a very different world. In Rob Zombie's Halloween, Michael Myers almost becomes a sadistic killer because everyone in his world fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is terrible except for his mom.
Yeah.
And he just kind of unravels. It's a very different take, but nothing is fully capitalized on. Things are ideas. They don't stick.
I wonder if I went back and I watched those movies. I mean, it's not like these are movies we're talking about, and we may talk about them in the future anyways. But I wonder if I went back to it and I watched it and I just completely cleared my mind and I didn't have John Carpenter's vision in my head, if I would enjoy them more.
Yeah.
It's just really tough to divorce myself from this movie.
See, I've tried multiple times to do that. Like, I've tried to just say, you know, this is a totally different universe, and I still cannot have a good time with these films. Like,
yeah, I mean, also
I think
to
Rob
a degree,
Zombie has a great vision for a lot of the things he pictures. Like, he's smart. He knows what he wants to do. It's like, well, a lot of his stuff is just hillbilly shit, because he finds it terrifying when you get dropped off in the wrong place. Anything could happen.
Yeah,
it's not like his vision on horror is bad. It may become a little stagnant because you've seen it so often, but it's no different than people's views on Burton, people's views on Shyamalan for a while. When you get the same type of films after a while, you kind of meander around that director. Doesn't mean they're not bad. It doesn't mean they're bad, but they have like a lot of similarities between film to film.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's a solid director. I used to really just not like pretty much any of his movies. But once I got to like Devil's Rejects and especially Lords of Salem, which I think is actually like legitimately fucking awesome. I'm sitting there watching this and being like, where was this? Like, I think I've reevaluated parts of the first remake. I think it's fine. Overall, it's fine. The first 30 minutes are absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of the problem for me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it's a 2-hour movie. It's a little long, but it is shoving a lot of things into 2 hours, and that was because of the studio. The studio made him shove all of this into 2 hours, and they made him do more of a strict remake of the first movie for the back half, which is frustrating because that's simultaneously some of the like most okay stuff as well as some of the most uninteresting stuff, because it's just like Rob Zombie going through the motions with John Carpenter's plot line. Is very, very stressful. It's very, very, very irritating. But I kind of wanted to go back to, we're off on a tangent on Halloween, the remakes, but it was pointed out to me, the idea for these movies is you're not supposed to have fun with these.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be more showcasing violence, especially in a very sickening way. And he does.
I mean, but these all come down to films reflecting the decade they're on, though.
Yeah.
Halloween reflects the decade of the 70s and 80s about how we're seeing films, how we see people. The same way Rob Zombies reflects the 2000s. I'm not saying, like, I'm not saying these themes, these elements are lost on me.
Yeah.
I think they have weight to them, but, like, when you're talking about the resonance between, like, society beating down one person until they snap is a great idea, but when the actual dialogue is, do you think she'd suck my dick for a quarter? Like,
yeah,
where's the resonance here, man? Like, I'm sorry. Is it comedically funny? Yes. Is that scene supposed to be comedic? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree. It's just kind of sometimes Zombie, just the way he chooses the right characters can be very grating.
Yes.
For no real reason, honestly. You know, with Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, I got it. It makes more sense in those movies. Mm-hmm. But in a movie like Halloween, it feels really odd to me. An odd choice. But that's neither here nor there. So.
It's just, you know, we could call it a tangent or not, but when we're talking about Halloween, it all comes back together. Like, this is a huge world that has films that span into different timelines, different decades. Each film's reflecting on the decade it's in. 4 and 5 and 6, sorry, just 4 and 5 really do reflect on how we see slashers in the 80s, just kind of encapsulating that atmosphere. As
even
stuff
2.
Like, what was that?
Even 2.
Yeah, 2 especially, with it being
2's
81.
Early 80s.
81 is a
Another
killer
81. Another 81 slasher.
Yeah.
Literally a killer period.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know, when I think of stuff like 6 and H2O, like, that shit is so 90s.
Yeah, I would say H2O more so than 6. But
I think it's just because Paul Rudd, like, the way he looks in that movie is so 90s.
6 has a certain visual style that
Yes.
it feels kind of like early 90s.
Yes.
Even though it's 95. But
H2O is very post-Scream.
It's very post-Scream, and obviously it's they did a script polish with Kevin Williamson, and Kevin Williamson gave a treatment for the movie, and they all worked together on it. So it makes sense as to why, but it's just like I really love H2O, but it is definitely like, hey, we were not only have we seen Scream, but also we're being distributed by the same company that distributes Scream. It made a lot of money. Let's do that with Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And have 5 different masks throughout the entire movie. One that's CGI.
Yuck.
Big gross. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to talk about the franchise as a whole, just because there's so many different perspectives on like what corner of this universe is good. Like, I know a lot of people who love the Thorn series.
All of it?
Yes, all of it. And like,
I will say, you know,
more power to them.
I used to get, because we would talk about these films before. We have, just talking about Halloween between you and me, we have talked about this series for over a decade.
Oh, 100%.
And like, I remember when we would first talk about it, I would stick by loving 5, because I would watch 5 a lot on television. I'd see the movie a lot, and you're like, that movie sucks, man. I'm like, dude, fuck you. I like the stuff in the barn. I like the final chase in the house, and like, I did.
And
after rewatching it so many times,
those are good.
Growing up, I'm just like, there's a whole lot more movie than those scenes, though.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's tough to defend that movie, but the stuff that's good in it is really good. There's a lot of cool atmosphere in those films, but when it's boring or when it's bad, it can be bad.
There's a whole lot more movie. Is there, though? In that movie,
there's a whole lot more to watch, I'll say.
Yeah. That's a movie, like, I listen to and read this book. It's called Taking Shape. I actually have it under my desk here. But it's about the making of the entire...
you actually have the book?
Yeah, I have the physical book.
Oh, cool. I thought you just had, like, the audiobook.
I did, but I also have the book. I'm going to pull
it out.
Actually, I'll be the Omega Chad. I have both.
Nice.
I have both books.
Oh, there's 2 books.
Yeah, the second one is about the...
Is it like... is it visual,
to
too? It has to be visual with how big it is.
Yeah. Well, also, there's just lots to talk about. There's a lot of interviews.
Yeah. It's just like with the way that book looks.
Honestly, not really that many photos. Not really. It's mostly
so it's mostly done as like an interview segments type of...
Yeah. It's a very much a coffee table book that just explores the franchise.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
but it's told mostly through interview, not like
they do breakdowns as far as like the plot. They discuss like the making of the movie, and then they get into interviews with actual people who were involved, including directors. An astonishing amount of them actually said, "Yeah, I'll talk to you too."
That's
pretty
cool.
I was surprised. You know, Tommy, Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins.
Okay.
I'll make sure I get that right. I am correct. I don't want to be an asshole. One of them follows me on Twitter.
Well, that would help.
Yeah, Travis Mullins does. Dustin McNeil doesn't have Twitter, but yeah, they usually go through. They'll be like, "Okay, we're gonna talk about Halloween 5 now," and then they say, "This is what happened to the movie," and then they discuss the lots of turmoil to get to that movie, and they have an interview with the director and all this stuff. By the way, the funniest interview in the entire book, because it's just
5?
Yeah, the amount of pontificating, man. Like, he's just like, I wanted it to be like this, like metaphor. Like, he starts talking in metaphors. They don't make any fucking sense. And I'm just sitting there listening. I'm like, none of this is in the movie. Like, oh god.
Well, that's kind of like when they do that with like the Camp Crystal Lake documentary.
I didn't read I want to read the book.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's more in the book or not. That fucking documentary is long. It's like 7 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm
kind of has to be with so many films.
I'm happy about it too. I fucking love that documentary. The Nightmare on Elm Street 1 2 is really good. It's 4 hours.
Yeah,
but
Never Sleep Again.
yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I fucking love those books. I read both of them. I read the first one twice now. It's just so good. It's so informative. Like, I learned so many things that I just did not know about the franchise. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing learning about horror films is that, like, there's a lot more than just the movie that's happening. And you could say with any film, like, you know, there's a lot more to Wizard of Oz than just, you know, walking down the yellow brick road. There's fucking 10 directors, a lot of turmoil, third-degree burns, people possibly dead on set. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of shit behind that film. But with horror films, I've never heard one go by where there's not some weird chaotic shit happening on in the background because it's low budget and they have to work around so much shit. People could get injured all the time.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, like, listening to, like, what happens in between these movies, especially because, like, Halloween comes out in 1978. Halloween 2 comes out in 1981.
3-year period.
3 is right after that, I believe, because Dino De Laurentiis had a right to a third film that he optioned pretty much immediately. And then between that and 4, the 4 is, I think, 1988.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a pretty big jump in time where they're just sitting there the whole time. They're like, what the fuck are we going to do? They were going to try to do this anthology thing. It didn't work out. And they settled. I said, hey, I guess we're going to bring Michael Myers back.
I think it's funny. I mean, 3 is an outlier of the franchise, but it's important in its own right.
I fucking love that movie.
And, well, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing if you disassociate it with the other parts of the franchise.
I keep seeing people now, after Kills has come out, everyone's sharing their letterbox rating of the franchise, and I've seen a lot of people, a staggering amount of people, with Halloween 3 at the bottom.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have to assume they're just too associated with Halloween.
They're just like, they don't like the movie.
They're just stupid. Like,
Yeah,
no, really. Like, what is so bad about it? Like,
I don't know.
There's nothing, like, I think it can be bland in parts. It just drags on. The weirdest thing to me is Tom Atkins is looking fucking 55 and the girl's like 18. It's like, hey, maybe don't fuck your grandpa. But, like, besides that...
And you know he came with her just to fuck her, too.
Yeah, it's like, that's just...
It's like they very much demonstrate that he and his wife are divorced for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's probably the reason.
So
He's a womanizing asshole, but...
I mean, that part...
I just love Tom Atkins.
Yeah, he's a really good actor.
I love him so much. The fact that he hasn't been in one of these new Halloween movies yet makes me really sad.
Oh, they're not going to show him.
Dude, the amount of Halloween 3 references that they've done in the past 2 are insane.
Yeah, but having him in...
It's more than just the
play
masks,
the character,
too.
Obviously.
No, he wouldn't be playing Chalice, but
yeah.
he shows up in horror movies all the time. He shows up in them constantly. And
if he shows up, they're just gonna kill him in 2 seconds.
I think he might be in the Rob Zombie movies.
It's very possible with them having Daniel Harris.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I think he might be in those, but I don't know. I just feel like Tom Atkins being in those movies is just like it's perfect. Like he should be in every horror movie.
I don't know about that.
I love Tom Atkins. Not as Chalice.
Yeah.
But
I don't know about that.
I love Atkins so much. Every time he's in something, I've always been happy.
Isn't it so odd knowing he's in 3 and he plays a character in The Fog where he gets together with Jamie Lee?
Yeah, and he's like clean shaven and he looks like 10 years younger.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, dude, it just
doesn't look like someone's dad. It looks like their fucking uncle now.
Their facial hair, the facial hair man just ages everybody up, and they just probably threw a little bit of gray in his. Yeah, I love that movie. I love how coldly it ends. So good.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked. It's crazy. You want to talk about how many kills? Everyone's been talking lately about how many kills Michael has versus Jason. Connell Cochran's got them all beat, bro.
Well, not if you count Jason X's Starship.
Yeah, true. If you count that, no one's ever gonna fucking top that.
That shit's so
funny. It would take hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Or Michael Myers.
Did you hear that Michael Myers blew up Earth?
Yeah, Michael Myers would have to literally destroy Earth in order to win in any timely fashion. And at this point, man, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about with just this franchise.
Yeah, I just love. I can talk about this franchise alone for days. It's not even like Halloween's again not my favorite horror film.
I think it's your favorite franchise though, isn't it?
I would say it's probably. I probably would say it's because obviously Nightmare on Elm Street's my favorite horror film, but the franchise itself is not my favorite for sure. And Friday the 13th, I like a surprising amount of them more now than I did before, but I still think I would probably say I've watched the Halloween franchise the most out of any of them. But I have a lot of fond memories with this series.
I've only gone through full watches of the series. Full watches means watching Resurrection, so probably only once.
I mean, technically, full watches of the entire franchise would include the Rob Zombie movies too.
Would be one. I think I've seen Halloween 2 twice. I've seen the first one multiple times.
Last year I went all the way up to 6 and I stopped because it was after October and I was like, I don't feel like it right now.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, like, when you watch a film and you have such a bad taste in your mouth, you're like, it's gonna take a lot to bite this bullet. Like, if I want to watch this again. Sometimes it pays off. I think watching Friday Part 5, I've seen it over fucking like 7 times now. But, you know, when I watch them, like, that was really bad. I'm not going to do this again. And maybe it takes a few years, but this last watch, I was like, I could probably watch that whenever. I don't care anymore.
It's honestly surprising how much fun I had with that.
Part 8, even, I was like, this is not bad. It's just boring sometimes. Which can be worse than bad, but, like, I don't know. I've gone through some bad films lately, so when you see bad shit, you're like, wow, this is bad. This looks way better. Like,
I'm so happy that so far in my Halloween watch, my spooky season watch through, I haven't hit a bad one yet.
Oh, I have. I don't mind watching.
But you've watched more this time around than I have.
Yeah, well, like,
you always do.
I wanted to watch shit that encapsulates time periods. Like, I didn't watch The Mutilator because I thought it was gonna be a good movie, but like, the movie's
it's called The fucking Mutilator.
But like, it's so 80s. Like,
100%.
You cannot ever get another 80s slasher film. So if I haven't seen one before and it's new, that's a new experience that I can have.
That's why I watched it.
Is it a good experience?
That's why I watched The Edge of the Axe too. Is because it's another 80s slasher film.
Edge of the Axe is way better.
Oh, it's better than Mutilator. I don't think
way
it's that
good,
better. But it's way better than Mutilator. Mutilator's pretty bad.
Edge of the Axe, the idea is pretty good.
Yeah, there's some of the kills are cool and some of the cinematography is pretty cool.
I just think like that movie's premise is way above when it came out.
Yeah.
It's way above the movie because the movie's not as good as the premise is.
The movie does not reach for what it grasps for.
No, but that's like when I saw that and I was like, you know, I'm not saying this was a really good movie, but that idea was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
It's pretty okay. I like it. There's a lot.
Fine.
It's more technically proficient than some of the ones that came out in the 80s for sure too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, like, I'm sorry, like you've hit some rough ones. I've just been pretty decent at hitting them. To be fair, I've hit. You know, my first movie of the month was The Guest, which I adore.
So, I mean, my first film of the month to fit in with the podcast was Halloween.
Yeah,
so I watched that at the beginning of the month. I watched
it immediately following it.
Watching 2 again reminded me why I liked a lot of stuff from it, but I also forgot a lot as well.
I saw Halloween 2 twice this month because I watched it on my own and then watched it with you. And I like it a lot less than I did in the past. That's one of the kind of interesting things to talk about is that Halloween 2 used to be my favorite Halloween film.
Yeah.
So it would take the place in my ranking.
There was time periods where it was my favorite too, just because I liked the idea of it more.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought it... There's a time when you're younger, you're like, I don't know, the sequel kind of does cooler shit, so I think it's better.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it, like the first movie, and you know, so bring it back around to us actually talking about the movie that we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
But Halloween 1 is a very minimalistic slasher film. There's very little bloodshed.
In the best way possible to be.
Yes.
Nothing happens nearly.
It's all about suspense.
Yes, 100%.
Every scene is finely tuned to really get you to be on the edge of your seat, because that's just Carpenter being a fucking awesome director. But there's the amount of blood in the movie is so minimal. Like even like the opening scene has a bit. You can barely see the blood in the
Probably more
opening.
blood in the opening scene than anything.
Yeah, and it's barely able to be seen because of the way that the movie is filmed.
Stabbed right in her fucking tit.
Yeah, call back to Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills.
But yeah, like that's probably the most blood on-screen blood. That and the dead body of the mechanic on the side of the road, and it's really not much for him either. So there's really little blood in this movie. Versus, you know, as teenagers, you watch Halloween 2, and it's got, you know, gore and, you know, somebody
Fire. It's got fire.
It's got explosions.
Yeah.
But like a guy gets a claw hammer through his head, and you see it. It's actually
Annie's corpse for the first time.
Yep, you see it with blood across because he slits her throat. I did not, honestly, I didn't know that when I saw it the first time. I couldn't tell, but he slits her throat, so you see her bloody throat this time around. But most of the movie is bloodless, and that's awesome. But as teenagers, you want to see the blood and guts, so you pick the bloodier movie.
It's also more plot heavy too.
Yeah, and I think that as teenagers, you think lore trumps quality of storytelling.
Yeah, or just when you feel like people are talking to you or interacting with you more, you feel like this has to be better, right?
Yeah, like you
There's
feel like
more
you're more
going on, so that means it's a better movie.
Yeah, you feel like you're more like involved in figuring out the plot more than just like being shown a film.
I liked Back to the Future 2 more than the first one when I was younger, but nowadays I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why 2 is my favorite for a long time. Also, the ambiance and all stuff. I was like, oh my god,
the score is really good.
I used to love Dick Warlock's The Shape. I don't anymore. Yeah, it's weird going back to the original and being like, no, this is literally perfect. Like you cannot improve. This is a franchise that I think that I would be absolutely stunned if we ever see something that is even close to as good as John Carpenter's movie again. And I love Halloween 2018.
Yeah, it's a very different type of film.
Yeah, I adore it, but nothing is ever going to touch this.
Lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, arguably, this shouldn't have been a franchise. Arguably.
I think I would agree. I think it always had place for one sequel. That was it.
Yeah, I think Halloween 2 ends fine.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're no longer brother and sister. I think that's an improvement.
It's so inconsequential. I don't like it, but it doesn't, like, if you look at it just in 2, like, I don't know, he's dead. I wouldn't care. Like, you know.
Yeah, but the problem is that doesn't happen that way.
No, he keeps going.
Yeah, so that's the problem, is it creates a situation where there is a franchise.
The blood connection created the entire franchise.
And like, hey,
that stupid idea made Halloween what it was.
Hey, I love Halloween 4. I'm glad it exists, don't get me wrong. But I am happy that there's now a timeline again where they're not related. I can just enjoy it as like, this man is fucking nuts and just going through a town killing people. So
that's actually one of the scenes I like a lot about in 5 too, is when he calls her uncle. When she calls him uncle, sorry.
Yeah. I do. I do until the mask comes off.
I don't mind it.
Well,
it's about giving him a very sliver of humanity.
No, I get it. It's just my problem is like I get chasing continuity and chasing realism in these movies is stupid.
Because he has eyeballs.
he has 2 eyeballs, and also his face and body is not absolutely fried.
Maybe he had a lot of surgery between the years.
Yeah, okay.
It's been 10 years, man.
Yeah, okay.
It's like
they just surgically implanted new eyeballs into his head. Okay.
You just cut his head off and glued someone else's head on. Apparently,
because he's got nice long luscious locks and no facial hair. Interesting. It's one of the only things that they do in the Rob Zombie movies that kind of makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, I mean, he's walking around, he escapes, and he's homeless. You would have a beard.
I fucking hate homeless Michael Myers, though.
Yeah, I know, but at least it makes sense.
Fucking hermit Michael Myers looks so stupid.
He never learned how to shave or anything, so like it makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense at least.
I've always liked the idea of a very clean-shaven psychotic killer, though.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about it though. Like when he was in the insane asylum, they would probably shave him, so it makes sense. But in his universe, you know, he's not in the asylum for years.
He's too busy having people fucked in front of him.
True. I definitely won't defend that.
I don't think you can defend that.
Nope.
Oh, it's about the depravity of society.
Okay.
Please go on. You want another scene of this then?
Couldn't do it somewhere else?
Literally.
Yeah.
You couldn't have it be attempted either? Like, you had to do it?
Yeah, it could have been successful. Yeah, could have been. Yeah. But,
Halloween.
Yeah. The good movie. Yeah,
So,
I mean,
if you had to pick for this series, you had to make your, like, perfect timeline, what films would be in it, what would be out?
Oh, fuck. In order to make... It'd be tough to have my favorite movies in one timeline. It wouldn't make sense.
No, you can't. It's impossible.
I mean, currently my favorite timeline would have to be Halloween Kills.
Yeah, see, that's what
The problem with going with the Thorn series is that I love Halloween 4. I love Daniel Harris.
Yeah, I do too.
I love Donald Pleasance. The story's terrible after 4. Like, the actual Thorn stuff is horrendous. And it's not just because, like, whatever, you want to have a timeline where he's being controlled by a cult, whatever. The storytelling is so messy.
Yes.
And haphazard because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They had no idea what they were doing. And they even said to themselves, like, oh, who's the man in black that breaks Michael out of his fucking prison in 5? Oh, we don't know. The guy, the people who do the next sequel, they'll tell you. It's like, that's a really bad way to write a movie. That's a really bad way to have a franchise because there's no through line and someone has to clean up your mess in the next movie and then they create their own mess.
It's so fucking funny though, because you gotta picture someone being like, hey, you just broke that. I'm off shift.
Exactly,
you
honestly.
Do that shit.
And it's like, they kind of like, I guess in the book they kind of talked about how, like, oh well, Halloween 4 ends with a twist where Jamie stabs her foster mom. We got to replicate that. We got to have another twist. It's like Shyamalan. It's like we got to have a twist every movie. And it's like, okay.
I think the twist works well for its film.
I don't think the twist in 5 works at all.
Oh, in 5?
Yeah, the twist in 4 works. I like the twist in 4. It's genuinely shocking. But the twist in 5, they're trying to replicate that whole, like, shocking ending. And it's awful.
I don't even remember. It's been so long.
It's just that Michael gets arrested after the end of 5. After he gets his ass beat
the breakout. The breakout. Yeah.
That's the twist. Is that the man in black that you see one other time in the entire movie, who kicks a fucking dog, just so you know he's evil. He just comes up with a fucking machine gun and kills all the cops in the station, and we're also to believe that fucking Sheriff Meeker dies, which makes me really upset because he's really good and I love Sheriff Meeker, but he just guns down the entire police station, and then Jamie's just like, no, he's out. It's just like, yeah, it's so stupid. Like, there's no build to this. There's no, like, the man in black just shows up once and then we forget about him for the rest of the movie. It's just like, it's one of those things where, like, they didn't have a finished script already in this. This is why the Thorn trilogy doesn't work for me, because having that movie in the middle, setting up this conclusion with part 6, and then 6 completely fumbling the at the finish line. Because it's not all the creative's fault. It's not, Daniel Franz's fault necessarily. It's not necessarily Joe Chappelle's fault, because the studio meddling and the development hell that movie went through is ridiculous. Slashing pages out of the script, ripping money out of the budget, and giving it to other films. That movie went through hell. And the fact that it came out as somewhat enjoyable as it does with the producer's cut is surprising. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I can't pick that movie because of how horribly it ends. And how incoherent it gets. Bad. Yeah, it's like, as incoherent as it gets, it's just like, I can't pick that movie. And it's like, we can't really say for sure the new timeline is good.
It's not over
because it's not over yet. I'm gonna get some ire, but I thought that the sequel trilogy for Star Wars was gonna be great.
Well, I think most people thought that, though.
No.
From the get-go with Force Awakens?
There's a lot of people who really didn't like Force Awakens because it's so much like New Hope.
Well, I don't like how similar it is, but
yeah,
still
there's a lot of people
movie.
There's a lot of people who are just like, that's what matters the most, is that it's just like it's a copy or whatever.
Still a competent film.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fun. But and then Last Jedi,
polarizing to say the least.
People are still pissing and moaning about it today. But I was like, well, they can wrap it around in this last movie, and they absolutely ruined it. They actually retroactively ruined their entire trilogy with the final movie. So it's possible that Halloween Ends could absolutely ruin it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna get my hopes up. I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna sit here and say they're good. They're gonna do it.
If Halloween ends terribly, it just means it's part of the Halloween franchise.
Pretty much.
It just means, hey, you really are part of the franchise.
If it doesn't end horribly, that is like transcendent.
First time.
Yeah, because if the second timeline ended with H2O, that would be easily the best.
1, 2 in H2O would have been perfect.
It would have been so good. It would have been such a strong conclusion. But they had to make that last fucking movie.
It ruins the entire world.
I'd like to say to myself that movie doesn't exist, but it does. I will headcanon it out every chance I get. I'll just say, well, there's no resurrection. It ends with H2O. But it doesn't.
This would be the first timeline.
Yep.
If he does die in the end of Halloween Ends, that'd be the first timeline where Michael is dead in the end too.
Yeah, because Blumhouse has said that they do want to do more Myers films.
I think it depends on how much money this last one will make.
I also think that if they do more Michael Myers movies, they're going to take time in between, and they're probably going to attack it from a different direction. I'd hope.
Maybe.
But yeah, I hope they stick the landing. I'm not in the minority, but it is kind of very divisive right now with Halloween Kills, and I enjoyed Halloween Kills, so.
I think Halloween Kills is just polarizing because there's so many new fans of the franchise.
Yeah, probably part of it, for sure.
You like it. I like it. I don't love Halloween Kills. I think it's a fun movie. I think it is what it is, but people really don't like the decisions made in it, which I don't get. But it is what it is. I don't think it's anything special at the end of the day, but I couldn't understand the complaints being thrown at the film.
Yeah, I agree.
The first one is such a simple film, right?
The original?
There's not a lot to it. It's a great movie, but you get an introduction to a character. This character becomes almost this omnipresence as he's talked about through metaphors, through other side characters and supporting cast. And as the film's going on, he's starting to interact more with the main characters. He's watching them, hunting them. One by one, people die off in the end. Him and Laurie. Every time you knock him down, he gets back up. That's the end. Boom. Loomis fucking put some plugs into him. Bop, 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 bop. Falls over the edge. He's gone. Very simple movie. Very effective. Very strong film. There's not a lot going on besides what is this person? What is Michael Myers? Who is Michael Myers really? What does he want? Where did he go? That's it. This movie asks way more questions than it answers, but it's not asking you like you didn't watch the film or like, oh, it's kind of fucked up that this didn't happen. No, it's just keeping you wanting more, as a good film does. You can come up with your own ideas because you watch the film, you want to interact with it, come up with your own thoughts and say, hey, it'd be cool if it was this, I like the idea of this, you have your own little headcanons or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a good movie. The second one tries to answer some of those questions. People love that movie. Small minority, I would say, don't like it. Whatever, this is good in it. Every film since then has tried to follow up on what is Michael Myers? Who is Michael Myers? Why is he so unstoppable? That question has always led to so much problems in this universe.
I think the more and more you try to answer that question, the more and more you dig yourself into a hole you can't get out of.
Because you don't really want the answer. You think you do, and that's the thing. Like, there's nothing that's a suitable answer that'll make you happy. There really isn't.
Yeah. I think right now they're at a sweet spot right now where they have pretty much the perfect answer at this point.
I would...
As perfect as we're going to get. because if you keep, I think as perfect as you can if you're trying to actually explain something.
I think Halloween Kills is too on the nose with the dialogue, and it makes me feel like I don't want to ask the question because I don't care. He is more than human. But if you keep telling me he's more than human, you know, he's built on rage, blah, 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 I'm like, but that's a metaphor. What the fuck are you talking? God damn it, shut up.
Yeah.
The more they're telling me, the more I'm like, now I'm going to ask questions. Now I'm going to want to know because you're making it seem like you know more, which I don't think they're going to answer, which would be fine. But if you're not going to answer it, stop bringing it up like you are answering it.
Yeah. Bottom line, though, the whole beauty of the original is that just like his mask, there is no information, or it's a completely blank character. You project your own idea of fear onto the character of Michael Myers.
Yes.
And through the entire movie, from beginning to end, especially after Laurie visits the Myers house with the key from her father, he's a continuous force, continuing and following her around. And you know, even during that scene where they're talking about fate in the classroom, he's right outside the classroom, and he's just this omnipresent, just manifestation of fate. You know, the whole boogeyman thing is on the nose, but he really is just the boogeyman. And I think that that's plenty of explanation. I think that if you're going to go too far, and you're going to end up in a situation where you cannot really tie together your explanation well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they got into with the Thorn series, is that they just could not stick that landing. They tried to explain too much. And by doing so, they left with more questions than answers. And they ended up with a complete mess of a series that they took a break from because of this.
I mean, the Thorn series just also continues a lot of what 2 sets up, where it's like, why is he hunting Laurie? She's his sister. Okay. You know, even that idea in that film doesn't really work. It just happens. There's no build to it.
The reveal of it's terrible.
Yes.
Also, it retroactively makes the first movie. It makes Laurie's parents.
I was gonna say, like, it makes Laurie's parents fucking terrible.
Like, hey, we're not going to tell you that you're related to Michael Myers, but I am going to send you to the Myers house with a key.
Also, at the same time, she just goes, "I'm not even real mom." I was like, "You're not even a fucking good mom. I know that much." Like,
yeah, they just retroactively
say that to their child.
Yeah, they retroactively just. I don't understand. It's the way that it's delivered. It's just like, it's so
mean-spirited.
Not only just mean-spirited, but like it's just kind of thrown in there. Like, it's just like, oh, she has repressed memories. She's remembering them as she's in the hospital. But like when she wakes up from, or she comes out of the realization, she's just like, she doesn't fucking say anything. There's no reaction. She's just blank. Yeah. And it's just like, that's a pretty fucking major development for you. But whatever. Also, like with Nurse Marion,
just like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, like if she had any form of emotion on her face after that, I would have been like, oh, okay, whatever. But there's no emotion. It feels like they're like, we gotta put a scene in here where we explain this. So, and then like Nurse Marion coming up to Loomis and saying to him, you know, like, yeah, there was a file. It was sealed and it was reopened after he escaped. It's just like, oh, that's convenient. Where was that before? Okay.
I think my favorite thing about
dumb
80s horror films like Halloween 2 is just the overtly horny nurses.
Yeah, they all want to fuck.
Why are all these nurses just trying to fuck on the down low?
Not even just like in slasher movies too, like fucking American Werewolf in London, man.
Yeah, American Werewolf in London.
She takes her patient home and fucks him.
Friday Part 4. Halloween
there's a lot
2.
of them.
It's like, what is with you guys?
Yeah, Friday.
People are literally dying in there.
Yeah, Friday 4. She must have been really, really like. She really needed to do something with somebody because she was willing to do it with that fucking disgusting ass mortuary guy.
Jesus Christ! Holy Christmas shit.
Yeah, I love one of my favorite things about this movie, because you know we talked about the franchise in general, but specifically about Halloween, is the ending.
Yeah.
Because not just the whole like, oh, he gets shot 6 times, he falls off the balcony, oh, he's gone. But at the very end of the film, you're shown images of these places that we've been where people have died, all these familiar locations, and over those shots, the fantastic, and we have to talk about the score, but the fantastic Halloween theme plays over it, and you hear this breathing getting in more and more intense, and it's Michael Myers breathing because he's everywhere. Again, omnipresent is a great word for it. He's absolutely everywhere all at once, and it's horrifying. That's one of my favorite parts about the movie. It's kind of where I sit there, I'm like, that is the perfect ending to this movie. Yes. Does it give you an opportunity to make a sequel? Yes. Did you have to? No.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have, honestly. As much as I like some of the newer movies and some of the sequels, like if this was just a one and done, I'd be fine with that. Like Black Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a one and done. That'd be fine.
Black Christmas to me is the perfect. You can't capitalize on that ever.
Bob Clark wanted to. He has an idea for a Black Christmas 2. He's always had one. You know what it was called?
What?
Halloween.
Really?
Yeah.
Get fucked, loser.
So, yeah, I don't see how you make another Black Christmas movie that's in continuity. You could definitely stop fucking remaking it now, please, Hollywood.
There's no way. It's just like that film. We'll get into it when we cover the film, obviously, but
yeah.
Like the way that film ends, it's like there's no way to do a sequel to that film without it coming out directly after it.
It would have to be within the next 2 minutes.
That's the thing. Like you'd have to follow
and it
suit.
couldn't even be because she's fucking dosed, so she's not getting up.
You'd have to follow him running away, going to a different location with different characters or something.
Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Billy ever.
Well, not actually see him, but like him scurrying or something, just like a shape.
Yeah. The shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The originator.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, we definitely can't not talk about the score.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason the movie got made, really.
Oh, it's like the whole thing was like he turned in a cut without the score, and Erwin Yablans was like, "This is not scary. Like we can't release this. This is bad." And he went off and he made the score, and it completely changes the film. I could not imagine watching this movie without the score, especially because like certain things are very much like tuned by that score. The zingers when people, when he jumps out of the closet and kills Bob. I couldn't imagine that scene without the score.
Well, it helps when your director's also the composer.
Yeah.
Because, like, he can do whatever he wants. He knows the timing. He knows what he has in his mind. He knows how the scene went. With the composition coming after, it's like an animate. It's like a voice actor voicing the scenes after seeing the animations. Like, you have everything laid out for you, and you're like, I'm going to build around what I already have. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And Carpenter's a great composer. He still does it to this day.
Yeah, I've never heard a Carpenter score I haven't loved. Honestly. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Very simple composition, which works.
Yeah. The score for Halloween, again, like the movie itself, the beauty is in simplicity. It's not a very complicated score.
Yeah.
In comparison to some other contemporaries, compare this to something like Harry Manfredini's score for the Friday the 13th franchise. Those are like super duper. They sound very complex.
They're very produced.
Yeah, whereas this one is very like specific and tuned for each scene.
That's the real reason, if you ask me, besides just the characters, the ideas, and the premise. Like Freddy, Jason, and Michael, they have their own looks, their own characteristics, and they have their own themes. Like a character with their own theme to them makes that character so much more powerful and unique. If you made an original IP and your song fucking sucks, man, good luck marketing that guy, or girl. Like that's tough.
Yeah.
That's not gonna sell well. But all these scores in the 80s, you could really pop off with some of these films.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have great scores nowadays. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
there's a little
definitely.
too much bomb in films.
Yeah.
But
Ever
when you
since
have a good
fucking-
score, you have a good score.
ever since Inception, it's just the amount of in movies is kind of insane.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When Zimmer does a track for films, I'm like, this could be good or this could be terrible. Because sometimes he does miss hard.
One of his best recently was actually No Time to Die.
Oh, he scored No Time to Die?
Yeah, it's really
Very
fucking good.
weird.
Very cool score. Great
I like
homages.
his theme for Wonder Woman, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like that theme a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Batman's is a little forgettable to me.
Bum, 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 bum.
Apparently not to you.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of the first songs in the movie.
You have to have, if you're making a long-running existing character, you want to remember you need a score that they can recognize, and that is why that remake era, they're fucking stupid. All of those scores never utilized.
Yeah.
Ever.
Except for
Friday.
Halloween.
Yeah, but they still don't play the theme in the right times.
You can't not have the Halloween theme in at least. Well, actually you can apparently because the Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 doesn't have it until the final.
It's
final
the
scene.
ending, yeah. Well, I mean, even in the original remake for Halloween, I think it's like right when he's running in the woods after he beat the dude to death or whatever.
The first time I remember it was
He's a kid when it plays the first time.
yeah, I just don't think it was then. I can't remember where it was, but I know he doesn't play. I was thinking to myself like, oh, it's probably something to do with after he kills Judith. But when he plays Judith, they play that dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. And the Shape Stalks, I think is what the name of the track is. But yeah, I don't remember where it was. I just remember they played it when he takes his mask out of the floorboards when he escapes. When he gets back to the Myers house, I thought that was a pretty good place for it. But yeah, I mean, it is really weird. Like even like the Nightmare remake didn't use it. They did their own score, and honestly, of the three of them, it's the best one.
You should have your own score, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah,
I
but
think
they
if
even
you
did
have
their own
iconography
rendition.
to characters sometimes, like with Batman, you need a new score. Like you need a new Batman theme.
Yeah,
you
you
can't
can't
play
do
Danny
that.
Elfman's. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, Joss Whedon.
Yeah, literally. But you can't just have these characters that existed solely in the 80s with these themes built around them and not utilize them, at least in some effect. I don't
Yeah.
need the full Friday the 13th theme when Jason's around, but you should have it at least one time in a build-up scene or something with him.
Yeah, it's weird to not have the
Yeah, just something.
and you know the whole
The stingers, like
beautiful Harry Manfredini score is fucking dope.
it is. It really is. Like you need to have elements. Take some things, sample a bit. And the new Halloween does that perfectly with it being the opening to the films.
Yeah, nicely. I mean, nicely. It does work out that John Carpenter came out to do the new ones
Yes.
with his son and his godson. So
Just do
pretty cool.
those. Like just do that. It's not a big deal.
it's like
We don't need it in the film a million times.
Plenty of the original like music is in the film, but they definitely. The nice thing about the new Halloween movies is they have the best of both worlds. They bring back older themes, including obviously the main theme. They can't really not have that,
Yeah.
but also they create plenty of new tracks,
Yeah.
and they're all awesome.
That's the point of having an existing IP and bringing it back, though. Like, you have to reference things from the past because why else would you have this property if not to utilize the property?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you have to make new things in the property so you can keep it going. If you wanted to make another Halloween after Halloween ends, it's kind of hard to do that with characters that aren't introduced, right?
Yeah.
Then you'd be fucked. So you have to make new characters. You have to have new themes, new things to get attracted to, new things that'll keep you coming towards this film, keep you seated down saying, all right, next film, go. If you don't have that, you can't have a sequel.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know what they're planning. I'm sure they don't even have a plan for that yet. They're just trying to get these ones done.
That's
But-
kind of why I was.
Which I think it's a good idea. I
That's
think
why
it's
I've
better
always
to.
loved the first one, though. Like it is so good at just saying like, we have so much set up for things if we wanted to, but as a standalone film, you can just love it the way it is.
My favorite part about the movie is actually my favorite part of about 2018, and it relates back to the original, is actually one of the things that most people hate about it, and that's Sartain.
Oh, I fucking don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, I just love.
I think he fucking hurts the film personally.
I don't. I think the nice thing about his character is I think it really it contextualizes the consciousness that these people have of why this franchise has had such a shit show as far as its, lore, I guess you can call it. Everything's about, hey, why does Michael do these things that he does? Why won't he speak? Why won't he, is he going to go after Laurie? Laurie should come see him or whatever. There's all this stuff, and they make jokes about how, oh, somebody made up the fact that they were related or whatever. Like, it's all about how people just keep asking, why is he doing the things he's doing? And the whole point of Sartain is to die.
Sartain's almost a metatextual character.
He is a meta character.
Yes.
I don't think he gets
Why
grading.
do you think I dislike him?
I know. He is, I think he's meta, but I don't think he's overtly meta, because his character as a doctor, it makes sense for him to ask the questions he's asking. Within his character, it makes sense. So it doesn't bother me. But when he dies after asking Michael to speak or whatever, he's trying to get Michael to Laurie's house to, finally reunite them. When he gets his head stomped like a fucking grape, the whole point is none of that mattered. But well, I guess I'm here, so I guess I'll kill her.
Yeah.
He doesn't recognize Laurie until he is fighting her in the fucking room. He grabs her by the throat and then says, "Oh, wait, you." He doesn't fucking know who she is. He doesn't know who Allison is. I think that's the beauty of the movie. I think that's why I like the inclusion of Sartain, is because all it is a big middle finger to the idea that we need explanations.
It's just so over in your face to me. Like, you could do that without having him in there as a character, to me personally.
It just doesn't bother me because as a character, it makes sense for him to ask the questions he asks.
Yeah, it just bothers me because he doesn't need to exist.
It just doesn't feel like a situation where they're shoving meta things in our face.
Yeah, they're not shoving exposition either or something.
Yeah.
Just to be there.
So it doesn't bother me, and I like the fact that it does really feel like, hey guys, stop asking these questions. We don't need to answer them. It's better if we don't.
It is better if they don't.
So
we have gone on for a long time about the franchise. Is there any final notes you want to do to talk about the actual original film?
I mean, I feel like we'd be remiss to not say something about the fact that, like, you just, like, really can't stand the fact that they say totally so much.
I hate the book shit more than totally. I like totally as an ironic thing, like totally.
Yeah. I just think it's really funny that it's like there's so many times that they say totally in that movie.
Yeah, it's like just in those scenes with the teenagers at least 20 times.
I don't care about my books. I always forget my books. I forget my
that scene
books.
pisses me off.
I forget my history
in the
who needs the books anyways?
Those two scenes are the ones where it's like
yeah, but that shit makes me laugh.
Hey Tommy, it's Halloween, you know what that means? Yeah, we get candy. It means the boogeyman's gonna get you. Boogeyman. Push him on his fucking pumpkin. Fuck that kid. Aww, my pumpkin.
Yeah, but good girl Laurie gets him another pumpkin. It's okay.
Yeah, very, very good for him.
Yeah, good babysitter.
Fuck Ben Tramer. Dumbass dies in a fucking car explosion.
Not in this timeline. I saw someone.
Is he existent in this timeline, in the new one?
Yep.
Does he show up?
Because fucking what's his name says, I knew you were into Ben Tramer.
You're sweet on Ben Tramer, he says that.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen Ben Tramer.
No, he didn't die. He didn't die.
Ben Tramer is the actual mastermind behind Michael.
He's actually just Michael.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Which makes Halloween 2 even more meta.
Yes. Way to ruin that movie more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like stuff you could talk about. We started this episode off saying, like, what can we say that hasn't been said, but, like, you can't not talk about the Panaglide, the POP shots, and the steady. It's not Steadicam. It's the Panaglide specifically. But you know, those shots are just like that wasn't something that people did very often, especially on the budget that they were on. That wasn't something that they did very often. And it's not a one take. It's got like, I think I was listening to the commentary. I think there's 3 cuts in it. One of them very obvious when they put the mask on. Very obviously that's a cut. But it's still impressive, undeniably.
How do you feel about the shot in the original, like when he kills his sister with the eye holes from the mask?
The only thing I find to me is kind of odd to it, and I think I know why they did it.
Is it the hand?
Yeah, it's him looking up at his hand.
Yeah,
as he's stabbing, but
the motion's also very just.
It's probably just to hide the violence.
Yeah.
Because maybe the MPAA were being assholes. I don't know, but to me that's the only thing, or it's to show that he's stabbing. But that's the only thing about that scene that feels weird to me. But I do like the fact that like he goes straight downstairs, goes out the front door, and the transition from them, they grab the mask and then it cuts to third person.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I also
like
how the camera work in this film.
I also really like how that scene ends in kind of like a man-made freeze frame.
What would you say is your favorite shot in the film?
When he fades in from the darkness.
Yeah.
Towards the end. I feel like that's probably not a unusual choice.
Mine is when he sits up.
That's another great one because he's out in the backward, out of focus.
It isn't like it's a very easy shot, but when that film came out, it was very unheard of.
I think someone released a video. Like they did like a recording at a screening of that, where they like recorded the screening itself when that moment happens, and everyone just screams. It's
so fucking good.
Nick Castle, man.
So talented.
Sweet guy.
We met him. Very, very nice.
Yeah, he's a director too.
Very
he directed the last Starfighter.
Really?
I believe. I feel like someone's gonna be like, "Hey, you're a fucking idiot, dude. It's actually this movie. You're a dumbass." But whatever. Fuck you. Suck my dick.
There's so much specialty to be coming from a film like this, and there's so much you could go on about. We could talk for lengths of periods about just this film, but
I could spend hours talking about the entire franchise, and I'd be content with that.
Like, I feel like there's so much we can do it and talk about, but really discussing what the franchise means and why it is so special, why there's so much conjecture on what's this and that. I mean, you'd even say what your perfect timeline would be, because you're just like, what the fuck even could I do? At the end of the day, it's like, there's nothing perfect about it. It's just a fucking mashup mess.
The one I currently pick is not finished.
Yeah.
The one behind that would be the one that has a terrible movie that ruins the ending of the previous one. So
it'd be 1, 2, and H2O, and nothing happens after that.
My favorite timeline is Halloween.
Yeah, literally.
That's it. The original movie by itself. That's all I can really do. That's all I can really say. It's just they always end so terribly, and I'm worried that we're just gonna get that again. So
it would not be wrong for a Halloween film to end badly, like I've said multiple times. Would it be nice to have a good film? It would be nice. Almost unheard of, but we'll see.
Doubt.
Yeah, hard doubt.
I hope so. I hope not.
This film's gonna round out and finish up our talk about Halloween.
I'm kind of glad it was more like a discussion of the franchise and what it means. Because we started like, what the fuck are we gonna say about a masterpiece? This is like Psycho all over again.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, Jamie Lee is related to Janet Leigh. So.
Yeah, she went dressed as her mom for the Halloween
Kills thing. Yeah, and in the H2O, Janet Leigh is her secretary or whatever.
Yep.
And she leaves
with the car.
Her one scene. It's the exact car.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. They tracked it down to have it for that one scene. It's awesome.
That's that might be the craziest thing about H2O is it's not in Haddonfield.
That's the thing. That's why it feels the least like a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Because it's in California, which means it's summer. Essentially, like it just looks like summer.
Yeah.
And there's palm trees and shit. It's just like, okay. I guess this is. I mean, I get it. She ran away from Haddonfield to get away from Michael.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But it's just weird.
Yeah.
watching a Halloween film that's not set in Haddonfield.
So I'd say final thoughts and final rating, but I feel like it's pretty redundant to assume you're gonna just give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, probably like a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
Imagine rating Halloween lower than Leprechaun.
Yeah. It could be worse. I could rate it lower than Puppet Master.
That would definitely hurt.
A 2 out of 10, you know. No, obviously it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
You know, I fucking just love this movie. There's a reason I talk about it and bring it up consistently throughout a lot of the episodes on the podcast. It's just like it's a movie that's easy to point to. It's a movie that is literally, in my opinion, perfect and accomplishes so much and you know, stands for a lot of the stuff that I love most about the genre.
I would say growing up, I would consider the Halloween franchise to be the best for sequels. And since then, I've retracted said statement. When I thought more about it, I'm like, not so much. But
getting to watch the Friday the 13th movies again, I think it might be Friday.
Yeah, I'm a very big bias towards that, but
yeah, notwithstanding part 9.
Hell.
Yeah, notwithstanding that, like most of them are enjoyable at least.
Yes.
But I used to think, Halloween's the most consistent. Probably it's fucking not.
Yeah, no.
I mean, like three of them are bad.
Friday is the word consistency. Like you consistently get from similar shit per film.
Yeah, even the ones I don't like as much. Like I don't like the first one, but it feels more like I would say that movie is better than the worst sequels in Halloween.
Yeah, but I think Jason Goes to Hell was possibly better than Resurrection. Possibly. They're both terrible films.
I'm trying to think of a character in either one that I like.
I like Creighton.
I like Creighton Duke, but he also is not. He doesn't live up to the hype that he's supposed to have.
The main character's friend, who's a cop, I like.
He's aight.
But he's hardly in the movie that much.
I mean, I think.
But Bianca, I actively hate like everybody in Resurrection.
I think Bianca Kadlich, the main girl, is fine.
In Resurrection?
Yeah, I think she's fine.
I don't even remember her.
Yeah, but that's about it. The rest of them are pretty fucking bad.
I mean, even the main girl in Goes to Hell is not bad. It's just the main guy is horrible.
The main guy's so fucking bad.
He's so bad.
He's so bad. But the story around Jason Goes to Hell. I mean, they're both stories around both.
The story is worse than Goes to Hell.
They're both the stories are kind of insulting to their own franchises, but yes. Jason Goes to Hell is barely a Friday movie.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's enough Michael Myers-y shit in Resurrection to be like, well, it exists in the franchise. It's not good.
Michael Myers is a haunted house that's fucking 10 stories tall.
Yeah. Michael Myers with his fucking eyebrows.
Michael Myers in this fucking Scooby-Doo house.
Michael Myers' eyebrows on fleek.
You know, they did Trick or Treat Studios is doing a Star Trek 1975 Captain Kirk mask.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Better pull out that white spray paint.
Yeah, you gotta cut the eyes out too.
No, it's open.
No, you gotta cut them out more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when they got the white mask, they spray painted it white and they cut the eyes out more, made them wider.
Yeah, make your perfect own custom Halloween mask.
Yeah, the only one I have is Halloween 2.
If I got any, it would have to be the first one. But I would like the novelty of having the fourth. It's such a fucking terrible mask, though.
Somebody on Etsy made one. It was they made like a mock-up, like a head you can have of the bandage wrapped Michael from 4.
Oh really?
I would buy that. That's pretty cool.
It's kind of neat.
I that's one thing. Like, I love part 4. I almost wish he walked around like that the entire movie.
His mask is terrible.
Yeah, it's not the worst.
That mask says budget.
Yeah, it's not the worst. But
no, I think Zombie's mask is good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. 5 is.
It is the worst.
So, one of the ones in H2O is pretty bad, and I'm not talking about the CGI one.
Okay.
The one that's like, it looks like it's a vacuum formed to his fucking face, and you can see his eye all the way around his eyes. So bad. That's so bad, dude. I like it best when you can't see Michael's eyes.
I like his eyes in Resurrection, but
Yeah,
it's a different choice.
I like the Michael Myers mask in Resurrection. I think the eyebrows throw me off a lot.
Yeah.
It's weird because he doesn't usually have eyebrows. At least not in my head. I don't think about him having eyebrows. But yeah.
10 out of 10?
Yes, 10 out of 10. Halloween 5's mask is the worst. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
With the fucking neck shooting out like
It's
that.
so fucking terrible, dude.
It's horrible.
The nose. I'm sorry, Greg Nicotero, because I know it's made after your head.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, dude. It ain't it, dude. It doesn't look like Michael Myers. It looks really bad, dude.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say. I'd love to say like 9.5 or 9 because sometimes I get bored watching it because I've seen it so often, but I get bored because I've seen it a million times.
And there's a reason why you've seen it a million times.
Exactly. It is a 10 out of 10. It is really like the perfect film to get people interested in slashers.
This is a comfort movie for me. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I'll throw this on.
I will say, to me right now, it is such a background film. Like, I will have it playing in the background all the time and just being like, reciting the scenes and not even watching the movie because it's just playing in my head.
Yeah. It just shows how much you've watched it and enjoyed it over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago where I was like, this is my favorite one.
Yeah.
And I'll stand by it.
Yeah, I've definitely backed down on Halloween 2 a lot.
I tried to say 4 was my favorite, and I was just like, man, you just want to be that guy. Like I said to myself, like, you just want to be that guy, where it's not the original.
Well, like, Halloween 4 is really good.
It's a lot of fun.
Not even just. It's not even just fun. Like, I think Halloween 4 has a really legitimately great final girl.
Yeah,
and
I like
also, and Daniel Harris.
Yeah, they're both great.
And like their central relationship is really good. I like the characters. I mean, like, Brady's an asshole, but in the end, he tries to do the right thing, I guess.
I think it boils down to just being the same old shit, really.
I mean, yeah, the whole point was like, hey, we got to bring this back to what made the original the original.
Yes.
So they definitely adopt that idea a lot throughout it. Also, it has a pink mask with blonde hair, which is interesting.
Wildly good.
Yeah, one scene.
I would love, and I would just love, for them to put Michael Myers in a clown suit. I absolutely want him. I want him to, instead of having the mechanic outfit, just a clown leotard with his mask, with a red fucking... Just like when he was a kid, the clown lives again. Then he has a one-on-one face-off with Pennywise for who's the clown that rules the town. This is the sequel to Halloween Ends. This is called Halloween Town Begins.
Alright, guys. Evil dies tonight.
Yeah. And the clown comes back. Alright.
Halloween 7, The Return of the Clown.
Yes, there we go.
Enough from the clown.
Maybe this way people will get back in the series again.
Get Michael J. White in there to fight Michael Myers.
Oh.
Enough from the clown. Breaks his neck.
No pencils in the building, though.
Yeah.
So, that covers our talk about Halloween and finishes off our big introspective through the series from horror through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Have you learned anything really new throughout this conversations we've had for these films? Or anything just really like...
I've learned a greater appreciation for certain movies. I would say definitely specifically Saw.
Yeah.
Like, also like just like appreciating the way that filmmaking has changed over the decades.
That's the thing I really do love the most about going through films decade by decade.
It's also really fun that we bookended this with proto slasher and a movie that was directly inspired by it.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And also mother and daughter. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean,
also,
I can't say that
it too. I mean, having Scream in there where it's very referential about what these films mean per decade.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've learned anything different because these are all movies we chose that I know very well.
Yes.
Other than Saw, like Saw was one of, like, I hadn't seen it in so long, so it's probably the one that sticks out in my mind the most. But it is kind of just wild. They're just fun to talk about, even if they're like, you know, like movies like, especially like Psycho and Halloween, where it's like, what else you gotta say about them?
Yeah. There's not a lot to say about discussing it or telling people about these type of facts or instances, but just going over your personal feelings about these films just makes memories come to light. Like, whenever I think about stuff from Halloween 5, it brings me back from celebrating Halloween when I was like 7 and 8. And just talking about, you know, going through these periods and binging these films about a teenager trying to find what interests me the most about this character, or why am I watching the Halloween franchise. Or like, even a few years ago when I've talked about when I became to appreciate the first as my favorite, just what it meant to me at that time period and how like I was changing as a person viewing film.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the greatest thing about big franchises in horror, is that like your opinion changes for certain reasons. And thinking back about how you used to view these things, or the person you were, it's really cool. And that's something the franchise for Halloween has always meant to me, just especially the genre of horror.
I agree.
So yeah, we'll check in next time with
whatever the fuck we.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go into any more themes. This was kind of a lot to tackle, but
yeah,
I had a great time.
I say the nice thing about doing themes though is that you know what you're doing.
You have a structure.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're like it felt like the in between month that we had. I think was between I think it was September, between Friday and Halloween, or the Halloween month. Was like we were like, what are we gonna do? And then we threw 4 movies together. It worked out well. I mean, we watched some movies that were really fucking good.
Yeah.
Some that were not as great, or one that was horrendous. But we at least we kind of just threw movies together. You know, we picked ones. We're like, which ones are we gonna watch? And we picked 4 movies that just we could cover.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, like, we ironed out like what movies are we gonna watch? Why are we watching these movies? And then we're just like, okay, well, this week I picked this one off the shelf. Instead of being like, hey, so we need 4 movies. 2 and 2, figure it out.
Yeah,
it's gotta be 2 movies that we both have access to.
Yep.
As well. You know, I have a lot of movies, and a lot of them you probably don't have. So it's like it's tougher to pick those.
I'd say for horror maybe not as much, but
some of them we each have. You know, like you have access to some of like my movie accounts. So like if it's on like
digital,
movies,
it's easy.
Yeah, like
I have maybe more of like the classics. Like
because you have a bunch of the Universal sets, and I have just the Invisible Man one. But luckily now I have Peacock technically, because I watch Halloween Kills on Peacock, and there's actually a surprising amount of really cool movies on there for horror. And you know, that it was cool. It's cool to have access to all those, because that's how we have to plan these out. Is, you know, what's on this streaming service, or do we both own this movie physically? Do we have to buy this movie to talk about it? Like I bought Bubba Hotep.
We have to watch that sometimes.
To potentially do for this month.
I've been going through some of these sets. Like I have the Hammer films and the Vincent Price set.
I still have to go through the Vincent Price set.
I've just been watching some of those. Like
could be something to look into.
I watched Pit and the Pendulum. That was a really good time.
The Vincent Price one?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't touched that set since we bought it.
Yeah, I mean, I got it because I knew it'd be the first time I could actually watch Vibes on Blu-ray, and I'd only seen Vibes on DVD.
That's what I bought it for. That's what I bought it for. But it also has like the Fall of the House of Usher. It has
there's a lot of great films on there.
And I've seen Fall of the House of Usher. They showed us that in high school.
Wild.
Yeah, they showed us that one with Vincent Price.
Wild.
It's pretty cool. It was fucking dope. But like, we'll figure it out. I mean, I can't say like we can't do like I can't think of really a theme around
I would
November.
Think of Thanksgiving films and have cannibal films, but I don't want to do that.
It's like that's the only thing we can do is like, hey, we gotta do something that involves eating things.
Also, that's something I only would get because I watched the Joe Bob special on Shudder.
Yeah, the only Thanksgiving movie I can think of off the top of my head that's not like a goof movie like Thanksgiving or something like is Blood. I think what's it called? Oh, it's the It's the twins slasher. Oh God, I can see the poster in my head.
Disregarding whatever,
Yeah,
we'll figure out what we want to do. But yeah, Halloween was kind of the priority.
Yeah, I mean that's the spooky month of the year.
It's
the
nice to
perfect
get
time
out of
for
the
horror.
way. I think even if it's going to be films that aren't going to be as prominent, I would assume the podcast episodes might be a little bit shorter.
There was an idea that we had a while ago that I would like to still attempt, but
Yeah.
I don't know if November is the right month for it.
hmm
But we'll talk about that.
And we'll discuss it later, and we'll keep you guys tuned in. And thank you so much for joining us for this look through the decade. And now that we're done, let's look towards the future and see what's coming next. Thank you so much for joining us now. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.